couple of months ago, I embarked on a new adventure by leaving the country of my birth for the first time and moving a couple of 1,000 miles north. I spent many months learning and preparing to cope with the language barriers and cultural differences. The mother tongue is sharp, distinct, but beautiful. And the food is bizarre, but flavoursome. Pickled fish, who would have thought it? And the pastries, oh my word, so many pastries. I was gonna like it here. My house was about a 30-minute walk from the village amenities, so it was secluded enough to give me that secluded feeling I craved without fully committing to hermitage. The one thing I could not have foreseen was the presence of the beasts. The natives personified the beasts. They named them and seemed to know their habits and moods and quirks. They could predict their presence and even welcome them, despite the chaos and damage some of them caused. Having only read about them in local newspapers, I perceived them as ravenous and unforgiving. They appeared spiteful and taunting. Why do the natives look upon them with such love and adoration, I awed. This I frequently wondered. One day, a few weeks back, the village butcher warned me about a name called Ula. The next beast was due to arrive. I am told that the name comes from an ancient folklore. I was nervous as this was the first beast I would face. I decided to gather some rations and hide away at home, hoping Ula would simply pass by. A trip to the village market was needed as I was low on comfort food, which I knew I would need to muffle my fears. Coat on and list in hand, I set off. The air felt unusual, open and exposed, and I felt small and vulnerable. I pulled my coat tighter. I was frightened, but focused on my goal, to clear off my list and return home safely. The general store was full. Bread and milk flew off the shelves as customers grabbed them with remarkable speed and accuracy. I was lucky to spot the last dozen eggs. However, this coincided with the hopeful glance of an elderly man. We made an unspoken agreement to split the dozen eggs. Well, I spoke and he looked confused and slightly horrified, as I no doubt butchered his language. I let him keep the box too. Seeing the frenzy going on around the confectionery section, I decided to abandon the marshmallows on my list and withdraw. So I balanced the bread, milk, 6 loose eggs, and a selection of strangely twisted and knotted pastries, which I suspected would not all survive the entire journey home. I headed to the unsettling serenity of the cashier. Having obtained all my goods, I began to walk home. The path was long and lonely, with few street lights and even fewer neighbours to bump into. The light was low, a little too low for midday. With a mile to go, my nerves had subsided, and my pace slowed. I soaked in my new homeland and confident I would not encounter the beast at all. After a few hundred yards, the world fell still. The birds went quiet, and the light diminished quickly. Fear rised in me, and I stopped dead in my tracks. I could hear the blood pumping as I felt the warm blood being forced hard around my veins. I held my breath so I could hear better. A quiet whisper brushed the back of my neck, forcing all the tiny hairs to stand to attention. I looked around in silent panic. I saw no one. Continuing forward, I set my sights harder on home. Then, out of nowhere, I hit resistance, and I saw him. Ula came running at me with blinding and paralysing force. I punched my way past him, inch by inch, but he had no relent. He was huge and unyielding. Every step was hard and heavy, and my head was down, hoping to gain some speed. His teeth bit my face and hands. His hungry saliva soaked through me. He was everywhere, pulling at my coat and filling my shoes. For a moment, a new panic struck me, but then it went away quickly as I remembered my pastries were safe. I had tied a knot in my shopping bag. With new resolve, I tried to regain my composure as he threw sticks and leaves at me from all directions. Why is he doing this? I asked myself with pity. As I unlocked the door, Ula grabbed it and flung it open and tried to get inside. I defended my castle, rushing in and slamming the door tight. Ula rattled it from outside as I bolted it behind me. With my back to the door, I took a moment to catch my breath. I was frightened and in pain. The fire crackled and popped in the hearth while the smoke raced up the chimney like a steam train running behind schedule. I could just imagine Ula sucking on the chimney like an old man nonchalantly smoking his pipe. After soaking my aches and pains in the bathtub, I curled up in my favourite armchair in front of the fire with a mug of hot chocolate, without the marshmallows, and a modest number of pastries. I could still hear Ula, but I felt safe and didn't make it to bed that night. When I woke, I saw brilliant light streaming through the window and onto the dull grey ashes of the long dead fire. The absence of sound outside suggested that the beast had left. There was calm, occasionally disturbed by the vigorous chirping of small birds nearby, likely signalling a clear coast to its neighbours. Curious to inspect the damage that Ula had inflicted during the night, I wrapped a blanket around my shoulders and headed to my front door. Cautiously, I opened the door, easing it. He was still there, but I was not scared. He was asleep in the garden. I could not believe it. He looked so peaceful and beautiful. How could this be the same creature that tormented me last night? I pondered. I gingerly reached down and felt his soft, cold skin, which sparkled with magical glow like diamonds. I took a seat on the porch and watched him sleep. He did not snore or stir. As noon approached, I let the blanket fall down my shoulders, and the light soaked both me and Ula's skin. I suddenly realised Ula had begun to look smaller, and his sparkle had gone. Within the hour, Ula had gone. He had returned to the heavens. I mourned him and was glad for the peace he left this morning. I began to wonder if I had mistook him last night. Did I mistake excitement for unyielding? Did I mistake relentlessness with the energy of youth? In his old age, he was calm and silent, generously offering up his magic until he slowly faded away. And I hope for his reincarnation. I hear another beast is due next week called Amur. I may watch him from inside the house this time. The end. Well, I know that wasn't terribly spooky or scary, but I think it captures how I feel about winter. I tend to get really scared of winter time and how the weather can make us feel isolated and, well, gloomy, for a want of a better word. But then as spring comes, I don't know, I miss those dark nights and cuddling up in front of the fire. There's just something really beautiful about it. Well, that's it for today. Exciting news about the next episode. My mystery box has finally arrived and I haven't opened it. I opened the envelope, but thankfully it was packaged up in, crepe paper. But oh my word, it smells divine. So I can't wait to do that one. Anyway, have a lovely evening, everyone, and lots of love to you all. Take care. Bye.